Hi, welcome to the Gambit Nash keyword tool. Very quick overview. First of all, why are we developing our own keyword tool? The two reasons really are cost and responsiveness. Cost in that once you get above the freemium offers for keyword tools, the cost tends to mushroom. The freemium offers, you probably guys with individual websites probably know, you can get something that does basic keyword analysis for free or sort of $9 a month. Once you want enterprise features, once you want to be able to deal with multiple clients within the same environment and to fetch from multiple sources, that doesn't scale as you might expect to do along a smooth line, that or give any sort of economies of scale. Actually scales almost exponentially. As soon as you have sort of a 10-12 clients with 3 or 4 channels each, that $0 or $10 becomes $4,000 or $5,000 a month. That's the nature of freemium offers. That's the nature of the way it works. So there's that, and there's also responsiveness. Facebook, Google, whatever. Google have added display planner this year. Facebook have updated their user interface twice this year. Some of the freemium tools that are the sort of the introduction to the expensive tools that I've used during that period of time have gone down for. One of them went down for 6 whole weeks in April, and when Facebook changed, only came back up in time for Facebook to change again in June and went down for another 3 weeks. So we like to be able to have control over our tools. The basic tool offers the criteria that any free keyword tool would. It looks at the search volume, competition, and suggested bids. What it also does is look at search relevance. Google's offered search relevance advice for quite some time now. Facebook and Twitter are also do it. LinkedIn, we think, does it, but there is no way of proving whether LinkedIn does it or not. And search relevance has a very high impact on your cost. It's a hidden weighting to the cost of any bid, and can increase the cost of a bid by up to 400% if the network considers that you are sending traffic to a site to a landing page which is subpar, and it doesn't quite understand why it's relevant for the keyword or that you're bidding for. Of course, the worst case scenario is it will refuse to send traffic no matter how much you pay. But then the next sort of worst thing after that, slightly better, is it will charge you a hell of a lot more, and typically it's up to 4 times more. So you know, you can be paying 50 cents or 30p for a visitor, or you can be paying $2 or £1.20 for a visitor. It really does make that much difference. So a good keyword tool will look at those sort of things, and it does here. This one's responsive. I've put in some fake data. Well, the data's real, but I've changed all the AdWord group and the keyword names to hide the real client that's behind this, to keep their anonymity. So the usual thing, you can set your metrics up here. What's the minimum required keyword? If you set it very low, most of them meet the criteria. If you set it even lower, all of them do. If you set it very high, not many of them do. And these graphs and pie charts respond and give you the overall metrics, how many are meeting your criteria. A good sensible one I tend to use is about 250. Competition ratio, this is Google, this actual set of data is 0.66 is a pretty good competition ratio you want to stay at or below. There are ways of working out roughly how many people are competing or how many sites are competing with you. 0.66 tends to mean there's competition between 6 and 8 other sites competing for those keywords. When you get to 9, 9.5 and 1.0 on that ratio, it can be hundreds of sites competing for you on those keywords. So once that scales on a very steep curve, and the sweet spot is about 0.66, about 2/3 the way along the ratio between 0 and 1. Maximum suggested bid, this is in pounds, it could be in dollars. That's roughly what $1 is now. You can see all these, once again, all these change. And these, which we've added, will give you an idea of where you are as far as compatibility. So you're setting your metrics up here, what you desire here, what you're prepared to pay, what your minimum search volume required is, and what competition you don't want to go above, etc. And these metrics here will tell you, this data here, this cockpit here will tell you how many of those keywords meet those criteria. Importantly, this little one here is how many meet both competition and bid criteria, so it's the intersection between those two subsets. So 242 out of the total of 538 meet that criteria. You run your campaign. At the end of your campaign, you get your data. The actual business that I used here was actually a B2B concern. BBC obviously isn't really a B2B concern, but there you are. So there's a few things that come out of here: the impressions, the overall cost per impression, number of clicks, cost per click. The longer the line, the higher the cost. So you can immediately see the standouts without having to read through down the data. You see here, cost per click is £3 cost per click. Here, the ones at the top are just pence per click. Some of them under 10 pence a click. And why is that? Well, here I've replaced BBC with the actual client's name, but BBC would be their brand, and you're sending traffic to a brand site. Imagine in this case it was bbc.co.uk or whatever it was, or bbc.com, and most networks understand that you have very high relevance because you are the brand. So there you are. A good indicator that this was a B2B setup initially was that in this RAG display here, which is taken from the tracker cookie, the tracker or the tracker cookie, or the pixel, the tracker pixel on site, shows that the click-through just completely dropped off at the weekend, which is typical of a B2B. Here we have the month comparison, which is quite handy. Tells you how you're getting on in terms of cost per click, total click-through from one time period. In this case, it's a month to the next. The scale here is that small for the small, because it's all on the same scale, that one has a dropout. It's got its own little graph in case it doesn't show up large enough here. You see here the cost per click from one month to the next went from £4.15 to 55p. The reason for that was the first month was a very low scale for this client back in October 2013. Blimey, this is nearly 2 years old now. The scale went down an awful lot for this client because they removed some on-the-nose keywords which I'd advise they didn't go for in the first place. They were far too commercial, and they spent a few £100 on those. And here we went long tail and broad match, which seemed to do a lot better. Broad match works a lot better these days than it used to. Category, keyword and categories. This sort of drops out the keyword analysis wherever you get your keyword and analysis from. If you are lucky enough to be building a site with pay-per-click and SEO in mind right from site build, so you're designing the site architecture, then this will look at, you can have a little look at your current site or some ideas of other sites like the ones you want and see where they win and where they lose in terms of relevance. And then you can actually build your canonical structure of the site and the content you put on that canonical structure of the site in line with the recommendations here. Now I've put categories and pages or tags. These could just as well be pages with tags in a page. Depends how you want to set it up. But it's recommending you set up 8 pages or 8 categories, and then have these subcategories or these tags for those pages, depending on how you want to set your site up, based on the fact that a lot of people are searching for these, but the networks can't find you have any content that is relevant to that. So that's quite handy. The last one we're going to look at now is display planner data. Google now has display planner. It's very useful from the point of view of, it's not to do with searches, it's to do with cookies in people's browsers on their devices. So it's cookies per device, not per user. But it opens up Google's demographic data to quite a large extent right from the word go. You don't have to spend any money, you don't have to do some probe marketing campaigns, you get the demographic data at least a top level up front, which is very useful for immediately transferring into Facebook and Twitter, which allow you to manipulate your sliders and to set your campaigns based on this demographic data in a very similar manner. And so Google's given you some very good market intelligence here, which is okay within Google, but it's actually a very good match for Facebook and Twitter. The Facebook tool's being rebuilt. As you guys know, Facebook changed their application in April, and again in June they outsourced most of their marketing intelligence to 2 large agencies at a cost of, I think it was $12 billion US they bought this market intelligence for. They're not revealing it without probe marketing, which is where display planner data is very useful. The amount of money you could save here, you probably save about a week and a half, 2 weeks worth of market analysis, which depending on your budget, if you've got a budget of $1,000 a month, it may well save you $300 or $400, £300 or £400. That's pretty useful. Sort of a bit of a head start. It doesn't do all the work for you, but it gets you that 20 or 30% of the way in. We will be adding the new Facebook, because Facebook are going to change again in November 2015. So we'll be adding specific Facebook analysis later in the year. At the moment, Facebook, as usual, in a state of flux. They're in catch up, and Twitter is sort of a year and a half behind Facebook on this. They don't reveal a great deal of their market intelligence. All that being said, Google have the biggest set of data in the world as far as this is concerned. It's the overlap between Facebook and Google users is above 85%. It's close to 90%. So the market intelligence from Google is a very good match, statistically speaking, to Facebook. There's nothing to say that that missing 12 or 15% is remarkably different. It really isn't. It's just some people use Facebook and don't use Google, and vice versa. But they are very few and far between. It's growing. More people going back to Bing and whatnot, and Yahoo and thing. But the overlap there is huge. So Google's market intelligence is very good to use cross-platform, as long as you take into account the fact that social networks rely on social content, and Google is more receptive to business content. It would be a fantastic world if LinkedIn had anything like a half decent business-to-business application and gave any sort of way of measuring your success in terms of demographics, as opposed to just pure click-through. But LinkedIn is incredibly expensive and offers very poor information return for your money. It offers decent click-through if you can guess the right things to bid on, but it doesn't really give you any very much in the way of solid feedback. They're going to be changing that as well. So this will be expanded. As with the version of this I released very early in 2015, which didn't have this sort of the data displays on it, I'll be debranding this and releasing a debranded version of this to my users and the people on my email lists and stuff, and downloadable from demondemon.com at some point, unbranded. The last time I did that, the feedback was fantastic. Thanks very much. I had people from my old muck at Edinburgh University, some of the guys from the informatics department were getting in touch. Professor David Lewis got in touch. We had Mark Cregan got back in touch from Manchester. We had quite a few academics getting back in touch. This, and what they did was amazing, really. They actually put me on to some resources that I hadn't been using, which could complement this at very low cost. And bear in mind, if you're spending £4,500 to £5,000 or dollars, or £2,000 or £3,000 a month on a tool to do this for you, you're passing that on to your client. And if you've got 20 clients at £3,000 a month, that £150 per client has to just go onto their bill. So this is a huge thing for me personally, and for Gambit Nash and for Demon to actually get this as functional as possible, as flexible as possible, to have as many channels in as possible, and to involve the community as much as possible. Already we're it, the way it works is probably a little bit Heath Robinson as far as data import and out export. There are VBA macros, there's a bit of Python there which I didn't write myself. Mr. Cregan got that sorted out for me. Some fantastic resources to get data directly from Google Webmaster Tools, get data directly from the keyword tool and from Display Planner and places like that without me touching it. Once again, that breaks as soon as Google change their application blurb, but that's the way it goes. But it's been fantastic and helpful. So the community is going to be involved. This is going to be a resource I'm going to put out there debranded, and I would love it if you guys, same guys as before and some other guys, got back in touch and told me strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, challenges, and where we can move on from here. This is just part of analysis. This isn't the whole of everything you do for analysis. You need to check the strengths and weaknesses of the website you're pointing to, the navigation on that website, the sales funnel, the route to basket on the website, its position in the brand position in social media, the brand position in terms of communities of interest,